At number 10, Chloe Grace Moretz. Disney is a bit of a controversial studio. They put a lot of pressure on their stars and like everything to be done in a certain way, so it doesn't surprise me that they would make a lot of last-minute creative decisions. One aspect of their franchise that is very perfectionist is their animation department, because Disney is sort of known for their animated films. Remember the 2008 animated Disney film Bolt, the movie about that cute little dog actor who wanted to be a real superhero? Well, this film is one that faced a last-minute change that cost someone their job. Though Miley Cyrus is the one who voiced Bolt's owner Penny, the role originally belonged to actress Chloe Grace Moretz. Chloe had actually recorded her lines for the entire movie before the decision was made to cut her from the film and replace her. It's believed that they thought her voice sounded too young for the character, so they found someone with a more mature voice, but luckily for Chloe, producers still credited her in the movie as the voice of young Penny. Her hard work wasn't completely scrapped since some of it was still kept in the final film, but still, being kicked from the project at the last minute has gotta be one of the worst feelings ever. At number 9, Eric Stoltz. When I hear about actors being replaced in movies, I sometimes wonder how the film would have been different with a different cast. One of the films I'm most curious about is Back to the Future, because after finding out that Michael J. Fox wasn't originally cast as Marty McFly, I wonder how things would have been different, because Michael was perfect for that role. Originally, the role went to actor Eric Stoltz, and they had filmed a substantial amount of footage with Eric as Marty McFly, but later the filmmakers decided that he just wasn't fit for the role. Eric Stoltz was a method actor, and he took his character very seriously to the point where he asked cast members to refer to him as Marty McFly off camera. I guess this dedication to the role was just a little too serious for the film, because Marty's character is a little more laid back and goofy, and so they needed someone to fit that style. They ended up firing Eric and brought in Michael to fill in the role, reshooting many of the scenes that Eric had previously done. Though the final cut of the film is mostly Michael's work, it's believed that there are a few of Eric's scenes that made it through, so that's a little fun Easter egg to look out for next time you watch Back to the Future. Now before I carry on with the list, I'd like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also check out my gaming channel Viper Girl if you're interested in having some fun gaming time with me. At number 8, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin has always been a controversial person. She's been in her fair share of controversies, but one of her biggest scandals happened back in 2017 when she made headlines after a photo was posted online of her holding a replica of Donald Trump's head, all severed and bloody. When this photo was originally released, all hell broke loose and her career was severely damaged. Because of the backlash that she suffered as a result of this post, she was reportedly blacklisted from Hollywood. CNN ended up cutting ties with her as this scandal caused her to lose out on a lot of her credibility, and Trump as well as his family addressed the picture, calling it disgusting, and many other supporters were not impressed by Kathy's actions. Kathy later issued an apology for her actions, but this post was really something that she could not come back from. She received a lot of hate, and people even made up some serious rumors about her quote-unquote political agenda. Originally, she apologized for her actions and said that she regretted posting it after seeing how so many people took offense to it, but she's seemingly gone back on that regret as she reposted the photo to her social media following the events of the US presidential election. But I mean, it's not like she can get fired again, right? At number 7, Mark Webber. Back in 2019, actor Mark Webber, known for his role in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, had some harsh words for TV network ABC after he was fired from their show Stumptown. At the time, the show had just been picked up by the network and was working on producing the series, and Mark was cast in a lead role as the best friend and love interest opposite Colby Smolder's character Dax, whom the show is centered around. Mark said that he was fired from his role on the show because he wasn't, quote, handsome enough for executives. In response, he took to Twitter to blast the network, calling their choice degrading. In one of his many tweets slamming ABC, he said, quote, "Look, I'm a straight white male, so I know my journey has been way less painful in this warped industry, but I'm being recast in a network television show because I'm not handsome enough for the executive. It's important for me to share the real pain we endure in this industry," end quote. He also spoke out about how the industry is so fixated on the appearances of their stars, saying how things need to be changed. Though there were some people coming to support Mark, others said that this was kind of whiny. But what do you guys think? Did he have a point, or was he just acting on his anger? At number 6, Hartley Sawyer. We've seen so many celebrities get canceled because of things they've said in the past. Old interviews and appearances have been dug up before, leading to another celebrity having to own up to their mistake. But one thing that most celebrities fall victim to is resurfaced tweets. For actor Hartley Sawyer, his past tweets not only got him fired, but has seemingly cost him his whole Hollywood career. After some of his past racist, sexist, and offensive tweets came to light earlier last year, Hartley was fired from his role as Ralph Dibny on the CW show The Flash. This all happened as the Black Lives Matter movement began to to gain traction last summer, and while people were calling on celebrities to own up to their past mistakes, Hartley's tweets were deemed too controversial and offensive to recover from. After firing the actor, the Flash showrunners released a statement informing fans of the show's decision to let Hartley go, where they said, quote, "In regards to Mr. Sawyer's posts on social media, we do not tolerate derogatory remarks that target any race, ethnicity, national origin, gender, or sexual orientation. Such remarks are anti-ethical to our values and policies, which strive and evolve to promote a safe, inclusive, and productive environment for our workforce," end quote. Since being fired from the show, Hartley's career has pretty much been tanked, and he's considered blacklisted. At number 5, Holly Hunter. Another big last-minute change that ended with a celebrity losing their job comes from the 2005 animated film Chicken Little, and it has a very big change. We all know the film as being centered around a little chicken who thinks the sky is falling, but we also know that the main character is a boy. Turns out that originally Chicken Little was a girl, and she was voiced by Holly Hunter. The actress had lent her voice to the film, and she recorded her lines for the entire film. She worked on this movie for 8 months, but after all that hard work, the studio decided to take the character in a different direction and made Chicken Little into a male character. Holly was replaced by Zach Braff, who re-recorded the lines for the film and had his voice pitched up in post-production. I honestly would have loved to see the film have a female lead, but I guess it was just too good, and the studio wouldn't want our brains to explode from how awesome it was. At number 4, James Gunn. In another case of tweets that got people fired, we have director James Gunn. Some of Gunn's old tweets were exposed in 2018, and they offended quite a number of people. The tweets included some incredibly offensive and controversial themes like inappropriate remarks and talking about hurting others, as well as other insensitive messages. As a result, Disney fired James just before production was set to begin on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and in a statement released by the company, the executives at Disney said, quote, "The offensive attitudes and statements discovered on James' Twitter feed are indefensible and inconsistent with our studio's values, and we have severed our business relationship with him." After issuing an apology to the public, it seems as though James successfully won over the executives at Disney and was rehired to direct Guardians 3, but has everyone really gotten over James' tweets, or will people just use them against him? Let me know what you think down in the comments. At number 3, Roseanne Barr. Actress and comedian Roseanne Barr was finding a lot of success for herself after her sitcom reboot got off the ground, but all of that went away in 2018 after a Twitter scandal had her canceled and fired from her network. Soon, her good press about her show getting renewed for a new season turned sour, and all eyes were on Roseanne after she faced backlash for an offensive and racist tweet about Barack Obama's former senior advisor, Valerie Jarrett. Roseanne tweeted comparing Valerie to an ape, and as a result, Roseanne had her show and career canceled. Though she later deleted the tweet and issued a public apology for her offensive actions, nothing could really save her career at this point, and now she's believed to have been blacklisted from Hollywood as a result. The actress later tried to backtrack, claiming that she thought Valerie Jarrett was white, but no one was really buying into her excuse, and it just made things worse for her instead of better. Roseanne has also gone on to say in interviews that Hollywood shunned her because of her political beliefs, saying that it's unfair, but right now, no one's really looking to help her redeem herself in the eyes of Hollywood. At number 2, Edward Norton. If you're a Marvel fan, then you may recall that there have been 2 different actors who have portrayed the Hulk in the MCU. Although many of us know Mark Ruffalo as the coveted green guy, actor Edward Norton was the one who first took on the role in the 2008 movie The Incredible Hulk. Though that movie was pretty successful, they fired him from the role and decided to not rehire him for the 2012 movie The Avengers, which is where Mark Ruffalo took on the role. Edward was reportedly fired from his role because of clashes on set. Some people have said that Edward can be very controlling on set, and the one event that really solidified Marvel's decision to fire Norton came after he and some studio executives got into a heated argument over their desire to add more action scenes to the film. That decision just didn't really sit right with Norton, and apparently he hulked out. Honestly, I couldn't imagine the MCU in the position it is now without Mark Ruffalo, so I think it was a good creative decision. But what do you guys think? And finally, number 1, Megan Fox. After having a significant role in the Transformers films, actress Megan Fox was fired from her role, and she faced a lot of backlash. Not too long ago, Megan spoke out about her Hollywood career and how it has caused her so many personal problems, like people seeing her as nothing but a hot woman and not the skilled actress that she really is. When she was fired from Transformers, Michael Bay said that the decision came after she was, quote, a nightmare to work with. This comment came about after Megan made a comment on set about how strict Michael was to work with, and when fellow director Steven Spielberg caught wind of these comments, he advised Bay to fire her, and that is exactly what happened. This reputation of being difficult to work with really followed Megan for a while, as people saw her in a negative light, though none of that was really true. Now Megan is doing her own thing and is living her truth as an outspoken feminist and a proud supporter of the Me Too movement, so really she just uses this negativity as fuel. You go, Megan. At number 10, Armie Hammer. Actor Armie Hammer caused the year's first big Hollywood scandal after making headlines as some intimate DMs were leaked on social media, which showed Armie talking about his bedroom fantasies. The page House of Effie exposed the leaked messages, exposing some of their adult content. Some of the things discussed in the messages were Armie's desire to eat people, and some people, like ex-partners, have come forward with their personal accounts of Armie's fantasies. But this isn't all that Armie is being scrutinized for. Armie has also been accused of assault. Because of this bombshell story, Armie has been losing work from all sides. When the scandal first broke, he made the decision to back out of an upcoming film project alongside Jennifer Lopez, and he also dropped out of a series he was cast for Paramount+. On top of that, he's been fired from a number of other projects as a result of the allegations against him. Armie has also been dropped by his agent and personal publicist. Hollywood has essentially fired the actor, as they will definitely not be casting Armie in any upcoming projects anytime soon, and because he's pretty much lost all of his networking connections. At number 9, Chris D'Elia. 2020 saw the cancellation of a lot of people. A lot of celebrities ended up in some hot water, and comedian Chris D'Elia was one of the stars who hit rock bottom. Chris D'Elia faced multiple allegations of sexual misconduct and harassing underage girls online last year, and this has caused him to essentially be fired from Hollywood. After multiple women came forward to share their unpleasant experiences with the comedian, from unwanted advances to indecent exposure and manipulation, Chris has lost all support and credibility in the industry. Though this scandal started last year, now in 2020, Chris is facing more allegations, and a lawsuit was filed in early March accusing Chris of soliciting private content from a young woman under the age of 18. Though this happened in 2014 when she was 17, she said that she was inspired by the other women who've come forward to tell their story and seek justice. Chris's actions and experiences with these women have not only impacted their lives, but his as well, because as a result of his actions, Chris was dropped by his agency and manager. He will be hard-pressed to find any work in the industry now. Now, before I go any further, I'd like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, because it really does help the channel out a lot. At number 8, Chadwick Boseman. The late Chadwick Boseman was an incredible actor. Each role he played was done amazingly, from playing King T'Challa in Black Panther to portraying Jackie Robinson in 42. Besides being a talented actor, he was also someone who fought for Black lives, and so when he saw something unjust or discriminatory, he was quick to call it out. This is a very good trait to have, but apparently it can get you fired. Chadwick once spoke out about how he was once fired from a soap opera for pointing out some discriminatory things in the show. While on All My Children, his first credited on-screen role, Chadwick played a character who was part of a gang. Chadwick explained that he asked, quote, why his character didn't have a father and why his mother was unable to care for her children. He told the show executives, quote, if we're out here assuming that Black characters on the show are criminals on drugs and have deadbeat parents, then that would probably be stereotypical. The executives didn't like that Chadwick questioned the character, and so he was fired from the show the next day. He was replaced on the show by Michael B. Jordan, both of whom went on to star in Black Panther together. Chadwick stood up for something and got fired for it, but it didn't matter because he went on to have an amazing career regardless. At number 7, Isaiah Washington. If you know Isaiah Washington, then you're probably a fan of Grey's Anatomy. The actor is a fan favorite, but after a scandal shook his career, he was fired from Hollywood for a short time. Isaiah left his role on Grey's for a number of reasons. Firstly, there was some on-set drama that blew up because he allegedly didn't get along with co-star Patrick Dempsey, and it was also alleged that they even got into a physical altercation. The scandal that really did him in, though, was his controversial use of a gay slur. He used this offensive language when referring to one of his other co-stars, T.R. Knight. As a result of his actions, he was fired from the show, and this behavior apparently led to him being blacklisted from Hollywood for a few years. He truly had been fired from Hollywood. No one wanted to work with him because his homophobic scandal was still fresh in many people's minds. People weren't really quick to forget these sort of things. Eventually, he was able to make amends and found his way back to the screen in Grey's as he took up his character's story once again. His Hollywood ban was short-lived, but it did do a number on his career regardless. At number 6, Terrence Howard. Nowadays, everyone knows actor Don Cheadle as the one who plays Colonel James Rhodes, aka War Machine, in the MCU, but that's not always how it was. In the first Iron Man film, the character was played by Terrence Howard, but after only one movie, Terrence was fired. Terrence was replaced, and in 2013, he explained what happened. During an interview, Terrence spoke out about how he had signed a 3-movie contract, but by the time it came around to filming the second movie, the studio proposed a much smaller paycheck, and when asked where his money went, he was told that the budget went to RDJ. He tried to negotiate a bigger salary, but talks didn't go well, and he was let go from the project. Terrence said, quote, "It turns out that the person I helped become Iron Man, when it was time to re-up for the second one, he took the money that was supposed to go to me and pushed me out." His career in the MCU was certainly short-lived. At number 5, Thora Birch. Thora Birch was once a rising star in Hollywood. From starring in Hocus Pocus to American Beauty, she was finding a lot of success in the industry, but due to a number of reported conflicts with a number of executives, Thora hasn't been finding the same level of success that she once was. Some say that she's even been blacklisted from Hollywood. Thora isn't solely to blame for her career troubles, as it is believed that much of this has to do with Thora's father and the conflicts that he's been involved in. The first big career-defining conflict came from back in 2010, when it was reported that Thora had been fired from an off-Broadway production of Dracula because her father would frequently accompany Thora to set and had physically threatened other actors. Thora was also fired from her project Manson Girls after her father allegedly got into an argument with production. Between 2010 and 2018, Thora reportedly only booked 1 gig, and the actress has said that much of that has to do with her bad reputation in the industry. She's also said that she's angered a lot of people over the years, so this could be one of the reasons she's been fired from Hollywood. At number 4, Chris Harrison. Bachelor Nation was hit with a pretty big scandal this year. Bachelor/Bachelorette host Chris Harrison faced backlash for comments that he made regarding another contestant's past. At the beginning of the Bachelor season early this year, photos of one of the Bachelor contestants was released, which showed her attending an antebellum-themed party. This was seen as racist and very offensive because of the history of the antebellum South. When this scandal first broke, Chris was asked about his thoughts on the matter, and he responded with some comments that fans perceived as perpetuating racism. In an interview on Extra, when asked about the contestant's controversial photos, Chris seemingly defended her actions of her being at this party because it was, quote, back in 2018. Rachel Lindsay, a past contestant and the show's first Black Bachelorette, questioned Chris on this, saying that it doesn't matter if it happened in 2018 or 2021, saying that it's never a good look. Chris continued to try and defend his stance, going back to the fact that this took place 3 years ago, but it still didn't win anyone over.
I don't disagree with you. You're 100% right in 2021. That was not the case in 2018.
Chris has since been fired from The Bachelor and will not be returning to host the next season of The Bachelorette. After apologizing for his remarks, Chris has said that he will make an effort to return down the line, but we don't know if he will be welcomed back on the show or if any network will hire him later on after this. At number 3, Shia Lebeouf. Late last year, Shia Lebeouf faced criticisms after his ex-girlfriend FKA Twigs exposed the actor for having hurt her while they were together. The singer issued a lawsuit against him, citing him as her abuser, where she accused him of verbally and physically assaulting her while they were together. Twigs recounted the many instances of violence against her as well as others, and this painted a pretty damaging picture for the former Disney star. This isn't the first time Shia has been exposed for his behavior, as in the past, Shia has also made headlines for getting into conflict, as people have called him erratic and aggressive. This scandal came about after he made headlines for being fired from a movie set as well. Though people thought he was making a real comeback to film after being cast in the movie Don't Worry Darling, he was ultimately fired and recast because people on set clashed with the actor, with some saying that he was very aggressive. When Twigs came out with her allegations against him and her recounts of other violent instances like harming animals to get into character, people started to think that maybe he doesn't belong in Hollywood anymore. He's been pretty quiet since this scandal happened, and since he's been fired from one job already, it might make things difficult to find another later on. At number 2, Robert Downey Jr. RDJ may have been responsible for someone getting fired from a movie role in the past, but he's also been fired by Hollywood in the past as well. Robert has had a rocky past. He started off his Hollywood career at a young age, but soon he was caught in scandal after scandal until he hit rock bottom. He didn't really get his comeback until he was cast in Iron Man. After his success in the MCU, you'd think that his days of being fired would be over, but Think again. Robert was actually fired from the set of the movie Gravity after a last-minute decision was made to recast him. The 2013 film Gravity stars George Clooney as a leading male, but that role was first given to RDJ. After a few days of filming, the director decided that Robert just wasn't suited to play this role. He said, quote, "Robert is incredibly talented, but the technological aspects of the movie presented a big obstacle to his style of acting." Clooney soon replaced Robert, and the film went on to be a pretty big success, but one has to wonder what the movie would have been like had they not recast the role. And finally, at number 1, Natalie Portman. Here's another last-minute casting change that would have altered the whole film. The 1996 film Romeo and Juliet stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes, but originally, Natalie Portman was supposed to play the role of Juliet. Natalie was 13 years old at the time, and though it is canonically how old Juliet would have been in the original Shakespeare play, executives thought it would be a little too weird if the 13-year-old Natalie starred in the film alongside a 21-year-old Leo. Years later, in an interview, Natalie said, quote, "It was really disappointing, but I wouldn't have wanted to be in the movie and have it look wrong. It was a mutual decision, but in the end, Natalie was fired from the role. It would have been weird to see her in the role, but still, one has to wonder how the movie would have turned out had the change never happened." At number 10, Piers Morgan. I know that we as humans are bound to mess up sometimes, but there's no excuse for being overly critical and mean to another person, because clearly it can have its consequences, like how Piers Morgan lost his job due to the rude comments that he made on TV. Piers had a lot to say after Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's interview with Oprah. Like many others, Piers was surprised at what was said during the interview, but he took some of the information shared in the interview and used it as hateful fuel that inevitably came back to bite him. During the interview, Meghan Markle opened up about her mental health and how it was affected being part of the royal family, saying that there was once a point after marrying into the family that she wanted to take her own life. Piers spoke about this on air of Good Morning Britain, and he said that he, quote, "didn't believe a word that she said." After Piers made those and a handful of other harsh comments, he started to face massive backlash from all sides, as people said that his comments on Meghan's mental health were diminishing and disrespectful. The studio he worked for, as well as Piers himself, started receiving harsh comments, and so Piers actually left his position at Good Morning Britain. He was, in a way, fired from his job, but he decided to pull the plug himself, I guess, to make him seem like the bigger person. He has since refused to apologize, and since nobody wants to work with him after all this drama, it could be that his career is finished now. At number 9, Megyn Kelly. Journalist Megyn Kelly once had her own show called Megyn Kelly Today, but after facing a scandal, her show was cancelled by the network, effectively firing her from her job. This scandal all started when Megyn defended wearing blackface at Halloween on her morning show, where she said, quote, "When I was a kid, that was okay, just as long as you were dressing as a character." Even though she tried to apologize for her remarks, the network just didn't want to take any more risks with Megyn over fears that this would reflect badly on the company, so Megyn was fired and her show was cancelled. Now before I carry on with the list, I'd like to take a moment to ask you guys to consider leaving a big ol' like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, because your support really does help the channel out and we appreciate your feedback. At number 8, Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons is certainly someone with little or no filter when it comes to his words and actions. He's an outlandish guy with a lot of energy, and so sometimes when he gets passionate or heated, then he can go off the rails a bit, and that can come back to bite him, as it resulted in him losing his job with Fox. At one point, the singer was a Fox favorite, making regular appearances on their programming where they would discuss hot topics in the world and would share their opinions on things. They seemed to really like him and enjoyed having him on their talk show, but after causing a stir at a meeting with Fox and making some crude comments towards some of the other staff members, Gene was banned for life and was fired from their show. Some of the things that Gene said to some women at the network got leaked, and it made the studio look bad, so they just had to let him go. In this day and age, making comments like that is sure to get you in some serious trouble, and for a celebrity, that can never be good because that can cost you your entire career, so Fox just had to save their own butts and had to get rid of the problem at hand. At number 7, Adrien Brody. Adrien Brody is a super successful actor, but after a scandal while hosting Saturday Night Live in 2003, his potential hosting career began and ended all in one night. When Adrien was hired to host SNL one evening, one of the tasks he was given that night was introducing the musical guest for the evening. Seems like a pretty simple enough task, but he still managed to mess it up. On the night that Adrien was hosting, the musical guest turned out to be Sean Paul, and Adrien saw this as the perfect opportunity to introduce Sean in an interesting way, to say the least. When it came down to announcing Sean's performance, Adrien came out dressed in fake dreadlocks and sporting a Jamaican accent. His bit was called out and was seen as offensive and uncalled for, as he went completely off script to do this bit, but no one found it funny in the slightest.
Man, Jamaica, man, you know, Rastafari, you got the whole family in the house, me got Sean Peter, you got Sean Paul, you got Sean Mary.
Because this was such an epic and controversial fail, the actor was subsequently fired and banned from coming back on the show. He faced a lot of backlash that hurt his image for a while, but clearly he's bounced back since then. At number 6, Jenny Slate. The first day at a new job is always a very stressful one. There's a lot of pressure to do well and start to fit into your new work environment, so usually employers forgive any kind of minor mistakes, but for comedian Jenny Slate, the mistake that she made on her first day was a bit of a doozy and she ended up getting fired for it. Back in 2009, during her first performance as a cast member on the show, Jenny got the chance to perform one of the sketches that she wrote. She knew the bit like the back of her hand, or at least she thought she did, because when she went to go say one of her lines, she accidentally switched up one of the words and dropped an accidental F-bomb in its place. We all know that on network television, especially on talk shows like this, having adult language is a serious no-no, and when Jenny messed up, it just was not good for her at all. After that night, Jenny just struggled to fit the show's vibe, at least that's what she went on to say. The F-bomb combined with her other behind-the-scenes stuff caused her to get fired from one of the most famous shows on TV, and that definitely held her back in the comedy world for a little while, but clearly not forever. At number 5, Alec Baldwin. Back in 2013, Alec Baldwin became the host of a late-night talk show called Up Late with Alec Baldwin on MSNBC. But his career as a talk show host was very short-lived, as the show was promptly cancelled after just 5 episodes because Alex landed himself in a scandal that got him fired from the network. Alec had been exposed for getting into a heated brawl with paparazzi, where he went on a bit of a homophobic rant, which, as you can imagine, made Alec as well as the network look bad. Luckily for him, the only thing that really took a beating was his late-night career, since his acting career remained relatively steady after this scandal. He got lucky that he only got fired from one job and not all of them. At number 4, Leah Remini. Actress Leah Remini, known for her work on sitcoms like The King of Queens and Kevin Can Wait, was also a host on the talk show The Talk, but that career was pretty short-lived because she just didn't mesh well with her fellow co-hosts. In an interview with Howard Stern, Leah talked about how she was fired from the show because, quote, she refused to keep her mouth shut. Leah said that she was just doing what she thought was right for her on the show, but the producers thought differently, and this led to her losing her job. Her career still remained intact after being let go from the show though, so things certainly could have been worse for the actress. We just know that she might not be invited to be a talk show host again anytime soon. At number 3, Charles Rocket. Between 1980 and 1981, SNL seemed to be on its way out, despite having been one of the biggest shows on TV. This all came after there were changes in staff, and this caused some drama because much of the cast weren't happy with the new changes being put in place. Because of this seemingly controversial change, much of the original cast of the show left, leading the new producer to have to rehire a brand new cast. This was great for new up-and-coming comedians because it gave new people new opportunities, but it also made others lose everything they worked for. Comedian Charles Rocket was one cast member who had their career destroyed on the show after he dropped an F-bomb during a skit. The comedian was closing out the show when he spoke some adult language, and since this is a huge no-no, he got reprimanded for it, and it caused him as well as a handful of others to get fired from the show. So he not only got himself fired, but many other cast and crew members as well, greatly affecting a lot of careers. At number 2, Ellen. Now I know you guys are gonna head into the comments right now and say, well, Ellen didn't get fired, and I know that. But she did kind of fire herself when she announced that she would be ending her show. She's laying herself off because she's taking away her own job. Last year in 2020, we watched the comedian and talk show host fall rapidly from grace as allegation after allegation came out, painting her as a nightmare to work with, among other things. She faced so much backlash for months for things like the treatment of her staff, her comments about lockdown, and the Black Lives Matter movement. Because of the events of last year, she lost a lot of credibility and respect in the industry, and her show lost a lot of ratings and advertisers as well, leading to her making the decision to end her talk show after so many years. So yeah, no one officially fired her, but she kind of just fired herself. And finally, at number 1, Sharon Osbourne. Talk show host Sharon Osbourne faced a lot of backlash a few months ago after making comments about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Sharon and her former co-host Cheryl Underwood got into a heated argument surrounding Piers Morgan's remarks about Meghan Markle. During this feud, Sharon backed up some of Piers's comments about Meghan's mental health, and this really frustrated a lot of people because many felt as though what was being said was going a little too far. As a result of the remarks that Sharon made, she was called a racist, and a number of other accusations came out about how she's used various slurs in the past when talking about her other co-hosts on the show. As a result of this, the network she worked for launched an internal investigation to look into the allegations against Sharon, and it all ended with Sharon being let go from the show.
In at number 10, Shane Gillis. Shane Gillis is the most recent cast member to be fired from the show, but his case is even more unique because he was fired from the show before he even made his first appearance. Gillis was set to appear on the 2019 season of the show, but after he was announced, racist tweets mocking Asian people resurfaced, as well as a video. An SNL spokesperson said in a statement on behalf of the show, quote, "After talking with Shane Gillis, we have decided that he will not be joining SNL," with the show adding that they were not aware of these statements before they decided to hire him. In a statement made after the decision, Gillis said, quote, "I respect the decision they made. I'm honestly grateful for the opportunity. I was always a Mad TV guy anyway. In at number 9, Adam Sandler. Yes, that's right. One of the most successful comedians ever, Adam Sandler, was fired from SNL. Sandler was fired in 1995 when he was 28 after being on the show for 5 years. Reflecting on the firing, he said on the Howard Stern show, quote, "At the time I was hurt because I didn't know what else I was going to do." He added, quote, "Yes, we were fired. We kind of quit at the same time as being fired. It was the end of the run for us. The fact that me and him got fired, who knows? We were on it for a few years, had a run, and everything happens for a reason. We kind of understood because we did our thing. It hurt a lot at the time because we were young and didn't know what we were doing, but it all worked out." And the we here speaking of is Chris Farley. But he seemed to be a good sport about things, and when he hosted SNL in 2019, he sang an entire song about how he was fired. In at number 8, Jenny Slate. When actress Jenny Slate was cast on SNL, she thought she would be entering the wild, wild west, but was shocked to learn just how restrained the cast members actually were, because it is network TV after all. Slate was fired after she broke the golden rule of live TV, no swearing. In 2009, during her very first sketch, she dropped the F-bomb. She said that immediately after, she understood what a big deal that it was. Saying in an interview later, quote, "It felt like an explosion when I actually said the F word on live TV during my very first sketch. After it happened, Lorne Michaels wanted to make sure I was okay because he knew I was scared. I had never been exposed so publicly. The aftermath was hard. People tweeted out that I was ugly and not funny, and it really stung." She even said that she never rewatched the clip of her swearing because she couldn't bear that humiliation. However, she did confirm later that the F-bomb was not actually the reason that she was fired, she just simply didn't belong there. In at number 7, Chris Rock. The story of why Chris Rock was fired is a great reminder that you should never talk about wanting to leave your job. Chris Rock became a cast member in 1990 and remained on the show for 3 seasons. But in 1993, he was let go from the show because he expressed interest in joining another sketch show called In Living Color, but that gig didn't work out. And In Living Color was taken off the air only 3 weeks after he joined. In 2019, Rock returned to SNL to joke about his firing in a song with Adam Sandler, where he said in part, quote, "I was fired by NBC, I went on In Living Color, 3 weeks later they took it off TV. But of course it all worked out and he became an incredibly successful actor." And at number 6, Laurie Metcalf. Academy Award nominated actress Laurie Metcalf was cast on SNL in 1981. However, her debut performance on the show was her last. After her first episode, the show immediately went on hiatus for a writer's strike. And when the show returned, she wasn't asked back. She spoke about the experience in an interview with Vulture years later, explaining that she was only in the city for 1 week, and for one of the sketches, she was sent out on the street with no idea what she was doing. Adding, quote, "When I see that, I realize I was very naive and brave about it in a way." She has gone on to be nominated for an Academy Award and 11 Emmys, winning 3. So I'm sure she's not bitter about it now. Halfway at number 5, Sarah Silverman. Sarah Silverman joined SNL in 1993 as a writer and cast member, but at the end of that season, she was fired from the show. To make things worse, she was fired by fax. Like, they didn't even have the courtesy to give her a phone call. Silverman said her firing was part of a big cast shakeup, and she even understands the decision, saying, quote, "By the way, I wrote not a single funny sketch, so that might have had something to do with it too." But she quickly made a name for herself outside of the show, and she's now famous for her brash stand-up comedy. And at number 4, Robert Downey Jr. It's insane to ever think that Iron Man could get fired from a job, but he did. In 1985, Downey Jr. was hired at the age of 20 for the show's 11th season, but he only ended up lasting 1 year. Downey has never admitted to being fired, but did admit that he was, quote, "ill-suited to the show," telling off camera in 2019, quote, "I learned so much in that year about what I wasn't. I was not somebody who was going to come up with a catchphrase. I wasn't somebody who was going to do impressions. I was somebody who was very ill-suited for rapid-fire sketch comedy. I was like, this seems really hard." And at number 3, Damon Wayans. Damon Wayans was hired in 1985, but only lasted 1 season because he changed a sketch without getting it approved. The issue was that he changed a straight character into a very flamboyant gay character without telling producers. The result was that Lorne Michaels fired Wayans for insubordination, according to GQ. Wayans told The Weekender in 2015, quote, "I knew I was going to get fired for it. Lorne did the right thing." And if you're wondering why he would do something that he knew was going to get him fired, Wayans said he made the decision because he was angry. Adding, quote, "They didn't let me do what I wanted to on SNL, which I came to learn was Lorne Michaels' way of protecting me from looking like I was trying to be the next Eddie Murphy." Later adding that the show would not let him do things that Eddie Murphy would do. but he got frustrated and decided to make his own script. But thankfully that wasn't the end for Wayans. Instead, he went on to star in the sketch comedy In Living Color for 3 seasons. In at number 2, Rob Riggle. Rob Riggle is another actor who only lasted 1 season on the show. He was hired in 2004, a former US Marine at the time. He blamed the fact that he was the only new person in the all-star cast, telling the Daily Beast in 2019, quote, "This is the first showbiz gig I ever got, so it's overwhelming to begin with. It's an unbelievable pace and pressure. I got to a point where I didn't even know what was funny anymore by the end of the season." Saying he was working alongside huge names like Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Maya Rudolph, so obviously he was the one that was going to be getting the boot. Thankfully, his comedy career didn't end there. Riggle then went on to become a correspondent on The Daily Show and is now a commentator on Fox NFL Sunday. And finally at number 1, Michaela Watkins. Michaela Watkins joined the cast in 2008, but only lasted 1 season before Michaels let her go. Watkins told Entertainment Weekly after she was let go, quote, "The only explanation I got from him, and he's not known to say things just to make people feel better, was that he felt deep down that I should have my own show." And I agreed. SNL was a dream come true for me. It was a fantastic year. I don't have any regrets. She told Decider in a more recent interview that she thought joining SNL would be, quote, "her big break," and felt that it was going well. But at the end of the season, she was shocked when her contract was not renewed. Adding, quote, "Maybe I was delusional. I really wanted to go back. I would have been really happy if they'd had me for 3 seasons. I felt like that would have been a really nice time there, but they had me for 1, and then they had me no more." But she added it was a humbling experience.